As Bagwele, we must learn from that. Your Excellency, with your permission, I request you allow us to the Kibuku NRM Youth Brigade to entertain you. Kibuku NRM Youth Brigade.
Every marriage has 100% chances of succeeding. You know why? Because God created marriage, and God never creates failure, and God never designs anything to fail. Every marriage has 100% chances of succeeding. Is your marriage struggling and you're wondering whether it will ever succeed, whether you will ever make it, whether it's even worth holding on to?
Up next on UBC, brought to you by...
Keep the lights on. Use Airtel Money to pay for all your Yaka bills conveniently. Open the My Airtel app to buy Yaka units. Airtel Money. Simple, secure, borderless.
A very good evening and a very warm welcome to our second edition of UBC News Tonight on this 26th day of March 2022. Before we get into tonight's news bulletin, let's first take a look at the headlines.
Brought to you by...
How to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
In our top stories tonight, Museveni launches livestock compensation in Teso, northern Uganda. Mark Chindie residents will miss Oulanyah's quality leadership. Norbert Mao shares Oulanyah's last moments. And Ugandans to produce cancer and diabetes medication.
Was brought to you by... Everywhere you go, MTN.
Good evening once again and welcome to a second edition of UBC News Tonight. I'm Loreen Masika Kazimoto and Muhammad Bugalu on sign language interpretation. We start off with our first headlining story tonight. Government is considering introducing a law against cattle rustling to ensure the state deals ruthlessly with the vice. State Minister for Animal Industry Bright Ramiramas equates the practice to piracy, which needs a serious intervention. He echoed this at Soroti University grounds during the launch of a cattle compensation, an event officiated by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Now we are going to bring you that story later on in our newscast. The Presidential Advisor on Security, General Eli Tumwine, has hailed the late former Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Oulanyah, for his resilience and unity during his time of office. Remembering late Jacob Oulanyah, General Tumwine says Oulanyah's death is worth celebrating other than mourning, given his contribution towards the country and his greatness in the political arena. Tumuineo, who joined many other leaders to celebrate the life of Jacob Oulanyah, has called on other leaders to emulate the Right Honorable Jacob Oulanyah to stand sacrificed for his country and appreciate God's appointed time other than spread hatred. Oulanyah passed away a week ago at a hospital in Seattle, USA, where he had gone to seek further medical attention.
Our Right Honorable late speaker has done is what impact have you left in the hearts of the people? Jacob Oulanyah, as one special person during his lifetime, has left an indelible impact of love, impact of leadership, impact of friendship, impact of service, impact of dedication, impact of commitment, impact of resilience, impact of oratory, impact of inspiration, impact of sharing. And let us all who remember him, let us all those who love him, and let all who admired him, those who liked him, those who learned from him, and all those he inspired, let them not just mourn as those who don't have hope. I have found a lot of message on the importance of celebrating somebody who has passed on. And it started when my 25-year-old son died. And they brought a book written on celebrating Junior's life. And I initially did not want, I said, how celebrate my son's death? But after deep thought in that church, in the funeral service, I found that there was a need to celebrate the 25 years I had had with him. And from then to me, if anybody dies, I think it is necessary to celebrate the life we have shared with him. And it's the same feeling I have for the Right Honorable Jacob Oulanyah, celebrating the time I had with him, celebrating the time we had with him, celebrating all the great things we worked with him. Repent. Death is always very near. Therefore, he reminds us that we should repent and we prepare. Let us know clearly that death is always near and it comes when it must.
Residents of Muyenga Urban Council, where the fallen speaker Jacob Oulanyah was residing, have eulogized him as a patriotic leader and an advocate of rule of law despite being an absentee neighbor. Yasin Omar, the chairman, Muyenga Urban Council, says as the community robbed them of Oulanyah at a time when they were planning to lobby him to oversee the long-awaited splitting of Makindye Division. Currently, Makindye Division is home to over 400,000 people with only 2 constituencies, a status that some residents think should be revised.
Yasin Omar, the chairman of Muyenga Urban Council, reveals that as a community, they were planning to ambush Speaker Oulanyah with an assignment of facilitating the splitting of Makindye Division into 2 divisions for improved service delivery.
Makindye East to become a division and Makindye West also to remain a division. Because we are trying our best to meet him and lobby for that. Was the right person. Okay, the ministers who are here can also try, but I doubt. But him was the right person. We will really miss Oulanyah for that. Then, also to have more MPs, because Makindye East has 200,000 people. The quota now is 75,000 people per MP. Imagine now our MP that we have here. When will he have time to consult 200,000 people before discussing to Parliament? That means he will take his views because he will not have time to consult us. But if we had the 2 MP at least. So those are the things we will miss Oulanyah.
To this end, there is no doubt that at the national level, Oulanyah was a patriotic leader and an advocate of rule of law.
He has supported the Church of Uganda because we have the land which was going to be taken, but he's the one among the people who are going to bring back our land. I'm a Protestant woman. But when I heard that he has stand in returning our land back, we Protestants, I was very proud of that man.
Because he has been our leader, he has been our speaker for the country. It's so sad, which is not good to lose such a person. I know he has been hardworking. However much I've never got time to talk to him, but I know he talks to some. Some got time, some other people got time to interact with him.
For this, Nasozi Jane, a fruit vendor, would love government to declare 2 public holidays for Ugandans to publicly view the fallen servant.
Because all of us, we are not going to reach where is going to be buried. So we who are not going to bury Jacob Oulanyah, we beg for the holiday, or we go in the church and we pray for him to rest in peace.
Dorcas Kimono, UBC News.
Thank you, Dorcas Kimono. Now, the Democratic Party President Norbert Mao has refuted the media claims and public discussions alleging that the late Speaker of Parliament was airlifted dead to Seattle in America for medication. Mao, who is among the last delegation that checked on the late Speaker, has shared with us the journey up to when the Speaker was pronounced dead.
And as you know, I'm not a government official. I'm not eligible for government funding. I was worried about traveling in that economy class. So when I talked to the Deputy Speaker who invited me, she assured me that she would ensure that I get a business class ticket.
Democratic Party President Norbert Mao is among the last Ugandan delegation that saw the late former Speaker of Parliament Jacob Oulanyah in Seattle, USA.
When we arrived, we dropped our bags at the hotel and immediately went to the hospital. We were ushered into Jacob's room on the intensive care floor. Before we entered the room, the Minister of Health had told us we should prepare ourselves to see Jacob like we had never seen him before. She told us, the man you are going to see is not the Jacob you know. He has lost a lot of weight and he is very ill. So we were prepared, but not as much.
Jacob Oulanyah was admitted at Fred Hutch Cancer Research Institute, where Mao was among the few Ugandans that saw Oulanyah on the hospital bed before he passed on.
He was not on oxygen. He was breathing normally. He was, of course, in the intensive care unit. We tried to call his name. He could open his eyes once in a while and see us, and I could see that he recognized us. And when he recognized us, his face became very sad. It was like he was telling himself, this is goodbye. And tears were streaming out of the corner of his eyes.
The team led by the Deputy Speaker of Parliament by then, Anita Mong, had a chat with Oulanyah's medical attendants, who shared with them a detailed treatment plan for the late Speaker of Parliament.
They thought that maybe if they got one of his siblings, they could harvest his cells, and if he's genetically compatible with Jacob's genes, then they could modify probably his brother's blood cells and then reintroduce them into Jacob's bloodstream so that they can fight the cancer. That would have been an option, and that's one of the reasons why we went with his brother. But even then, the doctors had already concluded that Jacob was physically not in a position to take that kind of procedure.
Sadly, this didn't see light as Oulanyah made his last brief on Sunday 20th March 2022.
So on that second visit, the doctor basically told us Jacob is going to slip away anytime. And he told us it can be today, it can be tomorrow, it can be the day after, next week, 2 weeks or later. But it's a matter of time. And he told us, as doctors, all they were doing was to ensure that Jacob spent his last days on earth as comfortably as possible, without pain. That's what they were managing. And that's why when we found him, he was heavily sedated with a lot of painkillers. That is when I put out that tweet and ended it with, "It is well." And everybody was interpreting it in their own way.
Mao, also who has closely worked with the late Oulanyah since the university days, says he kept his health a private matter.
The level, he never even ever told me he had cancer. But I knew that because of the severe beating he got on the 10th of December 1990 in Makerere when we were on strike as students. He was our speaker, remember? And I was the guild president. And the police came to disperse an assembly of students. And 2 students were killed, shot by the police. Many others were injured by bullets. And Jacob was beaten very severely with the butt of a gun. And that beating traumatized his internal organs. He had to undergo emergency surgery in Mulago, and they removed his spleen. Remember, the spleen is one of the organs that really helps to purify the body.
Norbert Mao also dismisses the current social media talk that the speaker could have been poisoned, saying that this is far-stretched.
The poison talk should not turn our country into a state of fear, where people will even fear now to go to a TV station and drink water. Next time I come to NTV, I'll be looking very suspiciously at the bottle of mineral water. We can't have a country like that. So I really think we must confront those issues and try to build a political system where we can disagree without being disagreeable.
Last evening, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni warned those speculating about the speaker's death.
Actually, we are going to go for them because I have heard some people saying that, oh, some people killed Oulanyah. Oulanyah was killed. The police are going to come and say, okay, you tell us, you seem to have some information. Oh, yes, because if you say because Oulanyah did not die in a private home. He died in a highly reputable hospital. And before that, he was in another big hospital in Dubai. And before that, he was in our hospitals here, including the Cancer Institute. Everything is there.
Robert Onyango, UBC News.
People's Pan-African Pyramid have joined the rest of the country to mourn and pay tribute to the late Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Oulanyah. They visited the late Speaker's home in Muyenga, where they also discussed the future of Uganda and Africa.
Member who believes in Pan-African values. If you have had a chance of interacting with him, Oulanyah is among those people who believe that Africa must continue living as Africa. And so we would also like to give respect to other, continents in their respect, but we also ask that Africa must live as Africa with their cultures and norms. And Oulanyah was one of those people who are championing such beliefs. Comrade, he was a true African, black African conscious, because in Oulanyah you do see a true African. Oulanyah lived his African life. Oulanyah believed in African cultures and traditions. And the togetherness that Oulanyah and brotherhood that Oulanyah carried along with himself is a true belief that actually that was the embodiment of Pan-Africanism. And that's why when we were beginning this organization in Uganda, Oulanyah was among those pioneer key members that actually started this movement.
We've lost a mentor, like my boss has said, we've lost a mentor, we've lost a teacher, we've lost someone who could defend us at Parliament with the bills that he has talked about. We really lost someone who could voice our intentions and our objectives. And as Uganda, as a country, and as a world, we've lost someone very important.
The Archbishop of Kampala, His Grace Paul Samogere, has commended traditional herbalist Dr. David Senfuka, who has dominated the country for curing cancer and diabetes. Paul Samogere made the remarks at a Thanksgiving ceremony held at Imperere, Kabuwoko, Wakiso District, at the residence of Professor Maria Musoke of Chamberlain University.
A Ugandan-born traditional herbalist, Dr. David Senfuka, has been commended for his cancer herbal innovation. The Archbishop, Kampala Diocese, His Grace Paul Samogere, wants God to continue guiding him in his endeavors.
Omukulu ono atuyanjulidde nti yalina kampuni eno eri mu kunoonyereza okutuyamba nga kutuukiddwako. Tumusabire ekitone eky'amagezi n'amaanyi.
Kampala Archbishop Paul Samogere asked all concerned to support the Senfuka initiative, for many are losing lives. David Senfuka got the gift of treating cancer and diabetes from his grandparent, who used to offer herbal medication to locals.
Kati oluvanyuma nawe bwa magezi onabulirako mukwano gwange omusawo nampa amagezi nangamba ati eddagala eryo wali badde olitwala ko mu gavumenti. Government in laboratories ne balikeberako kati sabo bakebera eddagala eryo bagamba nti basanzeemu ebirungo 10 mu ddagala lye nabatwalira ne bagamba ebirungo ebyo 16 ku byo buli kirungo kyali kisobola okuwonya omuntu sukaali ne bateekawo n'ebintu ebirala kati sabo research bwatu yatandika.
Dr. Senfuka is now requesting for an increase in the funding of research for Uganda to make history as the first ever country to invent the cure of cancer and diabetes patients. He cautioned the public on what they eat, use of electronic devices, among others. Former Katikiro of Buganda, Oulanyah Semogere, asked Ugandans to test in herbal medicine, for it has many cures and advantages.
Senfuka zimumanyidde ebbanga bwanvu so Archbishop tweyanzizza nnyo okusabira omwana oyo twamwegattako abamu ku ffe tukkiririza nnyo mu buvumbuzi n'okunoonya ebyaffe naddala eddagala okusinga okutwalanga bye batuterawo edda ne tweyita ab'ekitalo ennyo naye nga tetulina kipya kye tuzudde okugyako okusoma ebyabali ne tubikozesa. Omwana oyo David Senfuka Katonda yamuteekako omukono n'amuwa ekitone ekyokuzuula amadagala ago naddala diabetes ne sukaali.
The church has been also urged to encourage the masses to embrace herbal medicine. Sudat Kaye, UBC News.
Now, elders in Karamoja sub-region want the ongoing disarmament operation reviewed and include everyone, especially women, youth and elders engaged. Karamoja elders say uslama kwa wote operations against the current insecurity may not succeed unless the stakeholders engage local communities and other stakeholders. The elders say that even after peace is restored, government needs to focus on how to maintain, build and continuously nurture peace in Karamoja.
Hiyo ni sira yake. Uganda People's Defense Forces conducted a successful disarmament exercise in Karamoja sub-region and peace was restored between 2000 and 2010. Now Karamoja elders want leaders of the ongoing Usalama kwa Ote to coordinate all people in order for the current disarmament exercise to succeed.
Let us act faster. Let us come and involve everybody. We have the mouth to talk. Others have the weapon, the guns. Let us include all the elders, the young people, the women, and everyone.
What he did was to withdraw all the soldiers, leaving the Karamoja alone, which was a terrible move and the biggest mistake ever, from my own view.
We did not put plan B. The soldiers withdrew. Probably there was no money again to monitor and kill every virus that seems to come again of this conflict.
The current Usalama kwa Wote was intentionally launched to collect guns that had slowly veered into communities. Since November last year, the army has been on the lookout for illegal weapons using all means available.
When I saw those members and all these things, I was complaining deep in my heart. I said, do these people think that Karamoja can be disarmed by these things? These are only scarecrows. The real people who disarm, according to their first disarmament,
Just blame security for not involving them in the disarmament operation.
Do not sleep in the air. They don't. Few times they sleep in the bush, maybe between where they are going to carry their mission and where they reside normally. They come back eventually. They come back to their people. But the problem is lack of coordination, which should be restored.
Now the LC 5 chairpersons, the LC 3s, with their security, mobilize the elders. The elders are available. The elders can sit somewhere and summon all the youth and give them instructions.
Bishop Abura blames the Karamoja for concealing information regarding armed criminals.
when this boy buys a gun, the family knows that the boy has bought a gun, but we don't report. When this boy goes to raid, when he comes with the cattle, he doesn't take them to the bush, although these days this has been commercialized. But at least they take them home. They take them to the kraal.
Has also claimed that many people are tired and willing to provide information to security officials, but they fear for their lives.
Everyone is being feared. Even those who have guns, even those who do not have guns, there is a fear in the land.
Protecting them to their satisfaction, they would begin looking for these guns.
The 3rd Division Commander, Brigadier General Joseph Balikudembe, says they are doing whatever it takes to restore peace in the region.
They are within the villages, they are hidden within the villages, they are within the wilderness. We shall go for them.
The main sources of guns to Karamoja at Oposa of South Sudan, the Turkana and Pokot of Kenya, and wayward security officers, among others.
Now, as efforts to fight the allied democratic forces in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo continues, the Amnesty Commission Uganda is also pushing to normalize the lives of the ADF returnees in Kasese district. Now, these returnees were given assortments of handholds, sewing machines and spray pumps to help them keep them busy in productive work that won't divert their minds from thinking about going back to the bush.
Abductees of Allied Democratic Forces rebels in Kasese district have received assorted agricultural implements and tailoring machines for integration in their communities. The commissioner in charge of Western Region, Ronald Sekatawa, noted that the items are meant to help the former abductees recover socially and economically.
And even to make sure that they are busy, because the major incident which took them to the bush was dormancy or redundancy. So when we make them busy, we assume that these people are going to be concentrating on their activities and their programs. That means it will be very difficult for them to be confused again that they are being convinced to go back and fight the government or to go to the bush.
Sekatawa says the commission is still identifying people who could have returned from the rebel group and want to be granted amnesty. One of the beneficiaries, Jemima Bira, applauded the support by the commission and asked for more. The chairperson, Kisinga Sub-County, Jackson Masereka, says a number of people have been struggling to engage in commercial agriculture, but farm inputs limit them. A senior NRM cadre in Kasese district, Kiriango Kule, commended the government for the intervention, adding that since amnesty was granted and support extended to the returnees, lives of many people have changed.
Because personally, I have some of the returnees who are settled. Some of them are now in some pet businesses. Some of them have been given some small packages, and they are doing very well. If you go to some of the markets around, you will notice that there are some people who have been resettled. Some of them have been taken to some, have been given skills like tailoring, and they are supporting their life. Actually, they are no longer bad off like they were when they went. You know, most of our people sometimes are lured into rebellion because of poverty. So when they get that small package, definitely I am a witness to that it has a lot of impact.
Now, UBC News Tonight is going to take a very short break, but when we return, we have more stories in store. Don't move an inch.
Today in history.
On 26th March 1989, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni warned Kenya not to allow its army to cross into the Ugandan territory. Speaking at the press conference at Entebbe Airport after a 5-day trip from China, while answering the questions about Kenya amassing its army near the Busia border, Mr. Museveni said leaders of any neighboring country who continue to abet enemies of Uganda will be answerable for their actions.
Pay for your dream phone, Mpola. Get your dream phone today for as low as 1,400 Uganda shillings with free data for a year and pay slowly. All phones come with daily 50 MBs for 12 months. Repayment period is 1 year. Available at MTN service centers and M-Copper shops.
This is how we play. Play with power.
This is how we do it.
How we put a team together. This is how we pass on greatness. Because with this team to inspire us, there's nothing we can't do.
Go for goals and win. Buy a Pepsi glass bottle or Pepsi Max 330 ml. Check under the crown and win soda, TVs, caps, t-shirts and cash. Redeem prizes at any Pepsi depot or truck countrywide. Terms and conditions apply.
Pepsi, for the love of it.
Enjoy convenience today with Airtel Money School Pay. Dial *185#. Select option 6, school fees. Select option 2, school pay. Select option 1, pay fees. Enter student number. Enter the amount. Enter the PIN number to complete payment. Beat the back-to-school hustle today. Pay school fees conveniently using Airtel Money. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Where does it come from? That thing that makes us Ugandan. That thing that makes us different from everybody else. Where does it grow infinitely? Some say it's in our history, in our culture, and in our hearts, in our warm smiles and vast miles of coffee, dairy farmland, and amazing maize fields. It's in our inherent pursuit to always be better, to never stop growing and glowing. So you see, we are more than just a waving flag. We are a nation of sweat and skills, a nation of ideas and inventions. But what truly makes us Ugandan is our quest to improve the quality of life for Ugandans by creating sustainable jobs, businesses, and improving household incomes. That's what makes us Uganda Development Bank.
Uganda Development Bank, inspiring development.
Welcome back from that break. Now back to our first headlining story of the night. Government is considering introducing a new law against cattle rustling to ensure the state deals ruthlessly with the vice. State Minister for Animal Industry Bright Ramirama equates the practice to piracy, which needs a serious intervention. He echoed this at Soroti University grounds during a launch of cattle compensation, an event officiated by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni.
For the last 10 years, I know we have never ever had a problem of insecurity or cattle theft along that area.
These were some of the concerns raised before the head of state at Soroti University grounds at the outskirts of the eastern city of Soroti. Apparently, leaders faulted the army for not doing much to curb the vice of cattle rustling.
We arrested a lorry carrying animals in Agago coming from Karamoja South region. And we found the animals that was stolen from Agago in the lorry.
Mr. President, the security force at the border is inadequate. Because when we talk to the boys who went there to help us recover one of the bodies, they said that the soldiers actually gave up.
To be sincere, you need to do something, sir, as far as the leadership of the UPDF managing that area is concerned. I want to confirm this to you, sir.
President Yoweri Museveni, who gave audience to the concerns, gave assurance of soon having the challenge addressed.
That's not a big problem. We shall solve it. And I'm very sorry about the people who have died so far because of this avoidable problem. And also the cows, but it will be finished. It's not such a big problem.
It is a worry raised by other members of parliament and some ministers. State Minister for Animal Industry, Bright Ramirama, also has a proposal.
I don't get worried. Why? Where we have come from was worse. When I was 10, 11 years, I suffered badly. Karamoja were everywhere. And even our parents tell us before NRM government, there is no government that has not suffered with the Karamoja. So far, this government has been able to tame a bit.
Government has to put in a lot of effort to ensure that the insecurity starting again to come up in Karamoja must be fully contained for the benefit of the whole country.
Raiding is actually like piracy. So I think the law is necessary. The current laws are not as punitive as we should wish to do.
Museveni was here to launch cattle compensation for victims of war and cattle rustling, including Teso sub-region.
If you get compensation without getting the engine of socio-economic transformation, very soon you will be back to where you started. So compensation, yes, but with the new engine. The engine of what the NRM has told you. Either you go for intensive commercial agriculture with IMAR, with the Kura, or extensive if you have the big land.
He assured the claimants of having all their claims catered for in an exercise overseen by Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs.
But what is sure is the electronic identity card. Because that one will give everybody, even the old women put their thumbprint there and their photograph, so that one everybody should have. That should not be a problem. Therefore, we are going to move. We just came here to start. We shall move in stages until we have covered everybody.
We have started the process, and some people have completed the exercise of getting their details in order in as far as the verification of what they lost is concerned, and payment is going to start being made.
Area members of parliament have welcomed the move, describing it a dream come true.
That the money should be sent direct to the account of an individual, never to go through any association. And the figures of 1 million Uganda shillings should be maintained.
Let this money bring more money. Let it generate more money. First, if I were a beneficiary, I would start by stocking livestock.
I am happy. The program should be transparent and the program should be kick-started. I pray that within 3 years, government should complete this issue of livestock compensation so that we go for other projects, as the President said.
The first batch of cattle compensation valued at 50 billion Uganda shillings will benefit 4,200 people from 29 districts of Acholi, Lango and Teso sub-regions. Henry Okrut, UBC.
Parents and guards in Teso sub-region have been urged to take opportunity of seed schools constructed in the region to ensure that their children have access to secondary education. Now, Teso is one of the regions that has remained behind in many development indicators, including education, because of the LRA insurgency that affected the region for close to 20 years.
The government's plan to have a secondary school in every sub-county has gained ground as many seed schools have been completed and already being utilized by students. While commissioning Kakure Seed Secondary School and Asoret Seed Secondary Schools in Teso sub-region, the Minister of State for Teso Affairs, Dr. Clement Kenneth Ongalo Obote, urged parents and guardians to ensure that their children have access to secondary education.
Our priority as a government is to develop our human capital, and our responsibility as a ministry is to provide quality education. Considering the increased enrollment for universal secondary education, universal primary education, as well as business, technical and vocational training, it is right to say that gains have been made despite the myriad of challenges encountered in the education sector, which have now been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic.
The seed schools being constructed in sub-counties across the country are well equipped with science labs, computer labs, hygiene facilities, as well as teachers' quarters, and it is hoped that this will provide a conducive environment for learners. During the launch of the two schools, the elders in Teso sub-region expressed gratitude to the current government for prioritizing education as one of the key drivers for development. The head teachers of schools in Teso sub-region are optimistic that the seed schools will change the face of education in their region.
For me, I call it exorbitant, government policy in education. It has brought real social transformation that we are seeing. Stakeholders present here, Kakure Seed has first lifted and magnified Kakure sub-county. And if you move around, these buildings here attract you to this sub-county most. And I want to appreciate the president. I want to appreciate the first lady.
The construction of more seed schools across the country is ongoing with the aim to ease access to quality secondary education. Diana Kuti, UBC.
Former Minister for Finance Gerald Sindaula has advised Ugandans to embrace modern technology, especially accessories like tires, to reduce carnage on Uganda's roads. Now, this comes in the wake of recent Uganda police reports that have indicated increase in road carnage almost on a weekly basis. Sindaula was gracing the occasion of a partnership between City Tires and Bridgestone, which is one of the world's best tire and suitable for all terrain, including mostly in Uganda. Sindaula says most accidents in Uganda are caused by dangerous mechanical condition of vehicles, with tires the most balanced.